Hi, I'm Sadie. 3 weeks ago, I was planning the happiest day of my life. My wedding to Marcus, the man who'd been my rock for 5 years. I should have been picking flowers and tasting cake samples, not standing in a hospital corridor at 2 in the morning. But here's the thing about life. It never warns you before it shatters into a million pieces. My phone had buzzed at 1:47 a.m. Marcus and I had fallen asleep on his couch, buried under wedding magazines. Sadie, Mrs. Chen's voice cracked through the speaker. She was our neighbor, the sweet lady who'd watched me grow up. You need to come home. Now. It's your mother. What happened? Is she okay? Just come. I've called the ambulance. Your father. Her voice broke. Just hurry. Marcus drove. I couldn't stop shaking. When we pulled onto my street, 3 police cars and an ambulance painted the darkness in red and blue. Mrs. Chen stood on her porch, still in her nightgown, her face pale. What happened? I ran toward her. Where's Mom? They're loading her into the ambulance now, Mrs. Chen said, reaching for my hands. Sadie, honey, I saw everything. I heard the screaming and looked out my window. Tell me what happened. She took a shaky breath. Your father dragged her out of the house by her hair. Into the street. He was screaming about money, something about the wedding. My stomach dropped. The money. What money? Marcus asked. Mrs. Chen continued. He pulled her down the front steps. Her head hit the concrete. Then he dragged her down the driveway, screaming that she betrayed him, that she had no right. The $5,000, I whispered. Mom gave it to me last week, for the wedding. She told me it was her savings from working those extra shifts at the diner. Your father didn't know? Marcus said. She made me promise not to tell him. She said he'd never agree, that he'd say it was wasted money. I felt sick. This is my fault. No, Mrs. Chen said firmly. This is not your fault. I watched him drag her 50 feet, Sadie. Her nightgown was torn. She kept begging him to stop, and he just kept pulling. Mr. Rodriguez across the street called the police while I ran out to help. A paramedic approached us. Are you the daughter? Yes, how is she? Concussion, road rash on her back and legs, bruised ribs. She's conscious but disoriented. We're taking her to Memorial Hospital. Can I ride with her? One person can. Marcus squeezed my hand. Go, I'll follow in the car. In the ambulance, Mom looked so small on that stretcher. Her beautiful black hair, the hair she'd always taken such pride in, was matted with blood. Patches had been torn out. Mom, I whispered, taking her hand. Her eyes focused on me. Sadie, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You did nothing wrong. He found my bank statement, she said, tears running down her scraped cheeks. I was so careful, but he went through my purse. He saw the withdrawal, $5,000. What did he say? He came into the bedroom screaming, Where's my money? What did you do? I told him it was mine from my job. He said everything in this house belongs to him. Her voice cracked. He grabbed me by the hair and said if I wanted to throw away his money, he'd show me what garbage belonged, in the street. The hospital kept Mom for observation. Marcus stayed with me through the night. When the doctor cleared her to give a statement, Detective Morrison came in, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes that had seen too much. Mrs. Palmer, I'm Detective Morrison. Can you walk me through what happened? Mom glanced at me, then began. My husband, Richard, found out I'd given our daughter money from my personal savings account. He was furious. What happened next? He started yelling that I'd stolen from him. I told him it was my money, earned from my job. He said I had no right to give away his money without permission. His money? Detective Morrison asked. That's what he always calls it. Even though I work 40 hours a week at the diner, he calls everything his. I cut in. Detective, my father has always been controlling about finances. Mom had to hide that savings account from him. Detective Morrison made notes. Continue, Mrs. Palmer. He grabbed my hair and dragged me out of bed. I fell. He didn't stop. He pulled me down the stairs, through the front door, down the steps. My head hit the concrete. He dragged me into the street. What was he saying? I'll show you where garbage belongs. In the street with the rest of the trash. He kept yanking my hair. I thought my scalp would tear off. Marcus, who'd been silent, spoke up. Mrs. Palmer, how long has he been abusive? Mom looked down. 26 years. My throat tightened. 26 years? Since I was born? Before that, even. But it got worse after you came. He resented that I couldn't work as much when you were a baby. He said I became worthless. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Has he been physically violent before? Pushing, grabbing, throwing things. But never like this. Never in public where people could see. Because he knew he'd get caught, I said bitterly. A knock interrupted us. A nurse poked her head in. Mrs. Palmer, there's a Richard Palmer demanding to see you. Should I? No. Mom, Detective Morrison, and I said simultaneously. The detective stood. I'll handle this. Mrs. Palmer, do you want to press charges? Mom hesitated. Mom, I said urgently. You have to. Look at yourself. He's your father. He's a monster who dragged you through the street like you were nothing. Detective Morrison said gently. Mrs. Palmer, we have multiple witnesses. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Rodriguez, and 2 other neighbors. We have photos of your injuries. Even if you don't press charges initially, I'm filing a police report. Given the severity, the DA might prosecute regardless. What will happen to him? With witnesses and evidence, he'll be arrested for domestic violence, assault, and battery. Given the public nature and severity, he's looking at serious charges. Marcus added, Mrs. Palmer, this isn't just about you anymore. It's about showing Sadie that violence has consequences. Mom looked at me, really looked at me. You're right. I should have left him years ago. I was scared. But seeing you now, knowing you're about to start your own life, I don't want you thinking this is normal. This isn't love. No, I agreed. It's not. Then yes, Detective, I want to press charges. Detective Morrison nodded. Good. Now, let me go deal with your husband. Through the window, we watched Detective Morrison approach Dad in the hallway. Even from inside the room, I could hear his voice booming. That's my wife. I have a right to see her. Mr. Palmer, your wife doesn't want to see you. You need to leave. This is between me and her, family business. You assaulted your wife in public. That makes it everyone's business. You need to leave, or I'll have you arrested right now for trespassing and witness intimidation. Intimidation? I'm her husband. You dragged her through the street by her hair. That's not how husbands treat wives. That's how criminals treat victims. Now leave or I'll add resisting arrest to your charges. Dad's face turned purple. You'll regret this. All of you. Is that a threat, Mr. Palmer? He turned and stormed toward the elevator. Marcus whistled low. He's digging his own grave. Good, I said coldly. Let him. 2 days later, Mom was discharged. We moved her into Marcus's apartment. He'd insisted, and I was grateful. Dad had been calling nonstop from jail, messages bouncing between rage and manipulation. The arraignment was scheduled for Thursday. Mom and I sat in the courthouse lobby when Dad's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, approached us. Mrs. Palmer, I'm Thomas Brennan, representing your husband. Can we talk? I have nothing to say to you. My client is willing to enter counseling. This was a momentary lapse in judgment. Surely you can understand. I stood up. A momentary lapse? He dragged her 50 feet by her hair. Emotions were running high. Financial stress, I laughed bitterly. He was angry that she gave me her own money for my wedding. That's not stress, that's control. Young lady, marriage is complicated. Don't patronize me. I saw my mother's head split open. I saw chunks of her hair missing. I saw road rash down her entire back. That's not complicated. That's assault. Mom touched my arm. Sadie. But I was done. No, Mom. This man wants us to think what Dad did is somehow excusable. It's not. Mr. Brennan's expression hardened. My client is willing to make this easy. Drop the charges. He'll move out temporarily, attend anger management. And then what? Mom asked quietly. We go back to how things were? Him controlling every dollar, every decision, every breath I take? He's your husband. He made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. He tried to humiliate me to death. The courtroom doors opened. We filed in. Dad sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, looking smaller somehow. When he saw us, his expression shifted. "Sarah," he called out. "Sarah, please, let me explain." The bailiff said, "Face forward, Mr. Palmer." The judge, a stern woman with gray hair, reviewed the case file. "Mr. Palmer, you're charged with domestic violence, aggravated assault, and battery. How do you plead?" Mr. Brennan stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor. My client—" "Your Honor?" the prosecutor interrupted. "We have 4 eyewitnesses, photographic evidence of severe injuries, and the defendant made verbal threats in the hospital. We're requesting remand without bail given the flight risk and danger to the victim." Dad jumped up. "Flight risk? This is my home. That's my wife. She provoked—" "Sit down, Mr. Palmer," the judge ordered. "Did you just say your wife provoked you into dragging her through the street by her hair?" Mr. Brennan grabbed Dad's arm. "Your Honor, my client misspoke. I didn't misspeak. She gave away $5,000 without asking me. That's theft." The judge's expression turned to ice. "Mr. Palmer, your wife is allowed to spend money from her own paycheck. This court will not tolerate—" "Everything in that house is mine. She had no right." The courtroom went silent. Even Mr. Brennan looked horrified. The prosecutor stood slowly. "Your Honor, the defendant just confessed his motive and mindset before the entire court." The judge banged her gavel. "Mr. Palmer, you've just demonstrated exactly why you're a danger. Bail is denied. Trial date is set for 6 weeks from today. We're done here." "This is her fault!" Dad screamed as bailiffs approached. "Sarah, tell them! Tell them you stole from me! Sadie, you ungrateful!" The bailiffs dragged him out, still screaming. His voice echoed through the courthouse. "You'll regret this, both of you. I'll make sure you have nothing." Mom sat frozen. I took her hand. "He just threatened you both in court," the prosecutor said, approaching us. "I'm adding witness intimidation to his charges. With his outburst, we're looking at a substantial sentence." 6 weeks later, the trial lasted 3 days. Mrs. Chen testified about what she saw. Mr. Rodriguez described hearing Mom's screams. The paramedics presented photos that made the jury gasp. Detective Morrison detailed Dad's hospital threats. Mom took the stand. The prosecutor asked, "Mrs. Palmer, why did you hide your savings from your husband?" "Because I knew he'd take it. Everything I earned went into his account. This was the first time in 26 years I had my own money." "What did you plan to do with it?" "Give it to my daughter, for her wedding, for her future, so she could start her marriage with something I never had. Freedom." Dad's lawyer cross-examined. "Mrs. Palmer, isn't it true that you and your husband shared finances?" "No, he controlled finances. I contributed." "Isn't this really about you wanting a divorce and using this incident?" "Using this incident?" Mom's voice rose. "Look at the photos. Look at my head. Do you see where my hair was ripped out? I didn't do that to myself for divorce leverage." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge addressed Dad. "Mr. Palmer, your actions were brutal, public, and showed a complete disregard for your wife's humanity. Your courtroom outburst revealed this wasn't a momentary lapse, but a pattern of controlling, abusive behavior. I'm sentencing you to 5 years in state prison with mandatory domestic violence counseling. You'll also serve 3 years probation after release with a permanent restraining order." "This is ridiculous!" Dad shouted. 5 years for a family argument? You assaulted your wife. That's not an argument. That's a crime." After sentencing, we stood outside the courthouse. Mom looked lighter somehow, despite everything. "It's really over," she said. "It's over," I confirmed. Marcus put his arm around me. "What now?" "Now we plan a wedding," Mom said, smiling for the first time in weeks. "A proper one, without anyone telling us what we can or can't do." "Mom, you don't have to—" "I want to. That $5,000 was mine to give. Your father's in prison because of his choices, not yours, not mine. We're moving forward." Mrs. Chen, who'd attended the sentencing, joined us. "Sarah, I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without everyone. You, Mr. Rodriguez, Sadie, Marcus. You all showed me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's strength, I said. 3 months later, I walked down the aisle. Mom stood beside me, her hair grown back, her bruises faded, her smile genuine. Marcus waited at the altar, tears in his eyes. During the reception, Mom pulled me aside. You know what the best part of today is? What? I'm not afraid anymore. For 26 years, I lived in fear. But watching you start your life with someone who respects you, who treats you as an equal, that's everything I wanted for you. I learned from the strongest woman I know, I said. No more secrets, Sadie. No more hiding. We deserve better. We do. Dad tried calling from prison once. Mom and I blocked his number. His lawyer sent letters about appeals and reconciliation. We burned them. Some people don't deserve second chances. Some actions are unforgivable. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, freely, without the weight of someone else's control crushing you into the ground. What would you have done in this situation? Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to cut a toxic family member out of your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself and breaking free from toxic relationships.